Okay, hi. Welcome back, Generation in Between listeners. This is part 2 of our Christmas Story episodes. And right now, we're going to start talking about A Christmas Story, the musical version.
Hooray, hooray.
So part 1, hopefully you listened to it already, was about the movie from 1983. We told you all about that, how it came to be, some of the actors, some fun facts, etc., etc. But now we're going to talk about the musical version by the same name. And the reason why is because Katie and I just finished our run being in it.
Correct. And in case you happened upon this first, this is Generation in Between.
I said that.
No, you didn't.
I said that. Welcome back, Generation in Between.
Oh, okay. Maybe we'll edit that out.
But no, it's
but
fine.
Then you didn't say it was you, Dani.
I am correct. I mean, you are correct. Okay. So here we go. I am Dani.
I am Katie.
And this is our podcast, Generation in Between.
Correct.
Where we talk about all things from the 80s and 90s, okay?
There you go.
And I didn't write like our little special intro that we usually have, so it just threw us off completely. Obviously, we're not in improv mode right now.
We are not. But look, I feel like I'm kind of just on fumes to get to Christmas. I'm excited about Christmas, but I feel like I'm just like pulling energy from anywhere to get everything ready to go.
I know. And like I just said, we just finished the show run. We did 16 shows, 4 shows a weekend for 4 weeks. That's crazy, right?
Yeah, that's a lot of work.
It is a lot of work. And because I am crazy, I am also doing an event this weekend.
You are crazy and doing an event this weekend, both things.
Right. They can coexist. Because I have an amazing friend, OP, who does these really cool immersive like events, and I cannot tell him no when he asks me to participate because they're so much fun. And I love playing off the rails characters, and it's totally different than what I just did. I get to be scary and insane and scream, and it's going to be a good time, but I just have to make it past Sunday and then I can breathe.
Yeah. I mean, so
you too, because you're working.
Yeah. Mine's kind of like Friday.
But you have rehearsals.
I do have a rehearsal Sunday. Yeah. My studio youth are doing Beetlejuice Jr. So I do have rehearsal Sunday. But as far as like work and even voice lessons and stuff like that, Friday's my cutoff before I'm off for Christmas. So I'm excited about that.
Same.
Get a few things done. And I'm going to your show Saturday. So
it's not a show though.
I'm going to your experience.
Okay. I keep correcting Katie because I'm like, here's what you need to know. It's not a show. Like you are going to be doing things. And basically here's the thing, guys, because by the time y'all hear this, it'll be over. Well, I can't say too much anyway, because I don't want to ruin it for Katie, but basically it's like an escape room / scavenger hunt / immersive activity.
I'm excited.
You're going to have a good time.
Yeah.
So it starts out in an escape room, but then you go out into the downtown area and then you come back.
Cool.
So
I'm looking forward to it. So that's one thing about being in a holiday show.
Yeah.
Is that you can't, it's hard to get to all the holiday shows you want to go to.
Yeah.
So this weekend, Friday night, I'm going to see It's a Wonderful Life radio show.
Oh,
at Melbourne Civic Theater. Then Saturday night, I'm going to your experience.
Yes, thank you.
A very Black Pumpkin Christmas.
Yeah.
Is that what it's called?
And it's scary. It's a creepy, gory Christmas experience.
I am so excited. And then Sunday night, I'm going to the Henniger's Holiday Spectacular.
Yes.
So I'm trying to get everything in, and then a student of mine was in What a Wonderful World up at Titusville, and I was able to get there on a Thursday night last week. So that was like, so I'll still get to like 4 holiday shows.
That's a lot.
There's probably a few more that I like would have gone to if I had had the time, but that's okay because being in a show is a lot of fun.
It was.
And speaking of, so that's what we're going to talk about today.
We are. Yeah. So I think here's what we're going to do, guys. I'm going to give you the background for those of you who know nothing, who only know Christmas Story, the movie, and maybe don't know anything about the musical. I'm just going to give you like a history of it.
Cool.
And then we'll just talk about like our experience and comparisons between the movie and the musical. That'll be a fun thing to do towards the end. Because I just want to give you all the background first, just to hear how, like, because you think of A Christmas Story, the movie, and think there's a musical version? What? It's kind of like when I read the book Wicked in the late 90s and then I heard they made a musical. I was like, excuse me? Because have you read the original?
No, I haven't.
Okay. FYI, public service announcement. Do not buy it for your tweens, guys. It's a very adult book. It is an adult book. It is not a young adult book. And it's very different than the musical, okay? And it's very different than the movie. Anyway, I remember thinking, how are they going to do it? But they did it. And I will say the first time I watched it, A Christmas Story, the musical, I didn't like it.
What'd you watch? The TV one?
The live one. Yeah. I didn't like it. The second time I watched it, I was like, okay, it grew on me. And I think it's because I like the movie so much.
Yep.
And I know the movie so well that I had to let go of that and just let the musical be its own thing.
I think that's so true.
Yeah.
And we had people who even said that to us who came to see the show. We have both. We had people who were like, oh, it's different from the movie, but they look like they had a good time.
Yeah.
And then we had people who were like, I love the movie, but like, I love this too.
Yeah. So crazy. My mom, we talked about this before and we talked about this on the last episode. She hated, hold on, let me clarify. A Christmas Story, the movie. My sister and I loved it. We watched it all the time. My mom hated it. So, but she came to watch me and my son in lead roles together, which was amazing. And she loved the musical. And so she said she loved it so much. She was like, I'm going to go back and watch the movie because they came to a Saturday matinee and we still had a show that night and a show the next day. So one of those times she watched the movie and she said, I actually like the movie now.
Okay.
Because she liked the musical version
first.
Right. Yeah. Wild. I never in my life thought my mom would willingly watch A Christmas Story, the movie, and then say she liked it. I couldn't believe it.
That's really cool, actually.
I know.
You changed your mind. You actually changed your mind.
Right? Hello. Cool. Hello. So, right. So let me just give you some background on A Christmas Story, the musical. So the music and the lyrics are written by Benji Pasek and Justin Paul, who were the masterminds behind The Greatest Showman.
Yes.
La La Land. Those are two musical movies, but they also did James and the Giant Peach, the musical version, stage version, and Dear Evan Hansen.
Yep.
So you probably, if you're a musical theater junkie, you already knew all that. I actually didn't know. I knew they did Greatest Showman, but I didn't know the other ones.
Cool.
And the book was written by a man named Joseph Robinette. That's just your basic info. The first version of the musical premiered in Kansas City, Missouri.
Really?
Yeah. December of 2009.
Okay.
But the music and lyrics for that one were done by a guy of the name Scott Davenport Richards. So after that engagement, though, Pasek and Paul were hired to redo the score. So apparently didn't go over well the first go.
Okay.
So they hired them to redo it. And so the rewritten version premiered in Seattle on December 9th, 2010, so a year later. And it was a success, and a national tour in 2011 followed. Okay. So when we think of Broadway shows, we think of immediately of New York. Mm-hmm. So it had a limited run in Manhattan because it's a holiday show. So it opened on Broadway on November 19th, 2012, and then closed December 30th.
Oh, wow.
So just the Christmas season. Peter Billingsley, who was the OG Ralphie, was actually one of the producers.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Isn't that neat?
Of the New York one? Or
the one in New York. Yeah,
so cool.
The one in Manhattan. So he was one of those producers. The show returned to New York for a limited engagement at Madison Square Garden Theater this time.
Wow.
From December 11th to the 30th, 2013. So even shorter.
Yeah.
Just a couple weeks.
Madison Square Garden's huge.
Yeah. Well, it was the theater at Madison Square Garden.
Okay. Got it.
So, yeah. So they have a theater.
Probably still bigger than a Broadway theater.
Oh, yeah,
but
for
not
sure.
Like an arena.
Right.
Okay, gotcha.
The Ralphies and the Randys, because sometimes they double casted, were different each of those 2 years that it was in New York. But the 2012 and 2013 cast featured the same actor playing Gene Shepherd, the same actor playing the old man, the same as the mom, and Miss Shields. So,
makes sense.
Yeah. So I think that's cool.
Yeah.
Because I don't know, I've never played a role more than once.
Yeah.
Have you?
No.
I think that's really cool, like, to, like, have played a role and then be asked back to play the same role. I think that's really neat, especially in New York. So, anyway, so of course the kids, obviously you can't do that because a year is a long time and kids grow and your voice changes and you probably
it's a moment in time for those kids. Yeah.
But for the adults, not really. So anyway, a seasonal national tour has run since 2014. And actually, guys, one of our own stage techs, Becca, worked on the national tour.
Yeah. That's so cool.
Isn't that neat?
Yeah.
I loved hearing her stories about some of the fun stuff. She's done a lot of really cool shows, and it was fun to talk to her about that. But anyway, so the musical version received 6 Drama Desk Award nominations in 2013, as well as 3 Tony Award nominations. They were nominated for Best Musical, Best Book of a Musical, and Best Original Score, but they didn't win.
Oh, but that's okay.
Yeah, but they were nominated for all those awards in 2013. So it's pretty awesome. Okay, so now we're going to talk about A Christmas Story Live.
Okay.
2017, Fox aired A Christmas Story Live based on the Broadway show. It's not exactly the same as we know.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't exactly the same. So the live version cut 3 of the OG songs.
Really?
Yeah, and I forgot to look up which ones. Okay. But Pasek and Paul actually wrote several new songs, one of which I loved, which was Mrs. Schwartz's song, Market for a Miracle.
So good.
I wish we would have had it in our version.
Yeah, it's so good.
So good. But anyway, they cut 3 of the original songs and then they wrote several new ones. That was one. Why did I not write these? I don't know. Okay. It doesn't matter. So Maya Rudolph was the mother, which I adore because I love her. And I just am so excited. I got to play a role that she played and it made me so happy. And somebody even told me, you remind me so much of her. And I was like, yes, let's go. Matthew Broderick was the narrator. Andy Walken was Ralphie. Jane Krakowski was Mrs. Shields. And this guy's last name I'm going to murder, and I don't mean to, Chris Diamantopoulos.
Yeah, it's a very
something
long
like
name.
that.
Yes.
He was the old man, and Anna Gasteyer was Mr. Schwartz.
Yes.
And she was amazing. All right, so that's just the brief history. Mm-hmm. So what I want to talk about first, before we jump into our stuff, is talk about some of the similarities and the differences between the musical and the movie.
Let's do it.
So I wrote down some, but I mean, we can just talk about it. So something that I was so excited about. Oh, by the way, I guess I should say, I played the mom.
Yes, there you go.
And my son Cooper played Ralphie. And that, I'm probably going to cry at some point during this because it was such a, like, moment in time for us, like Katie just said, because I don't know if we'll ever get that opportunity ever again.
Right.
For lots of different reasons, his age, my abilities, etc. And it was so emotional. I'm a crier and I'm an emotional person. I knew our last show would be emotional, but I didn't know how much it would linger.
Right. Yeah. It's sort of like you anticipate a closing show to make you feel all the things and you're very aware. Like, even during the show, in my dressing room, we were kind of saying to each other, oh, that's the last time I'll wear that costume. Right. That's the last time I'm going to sing that song. Because you're hyper aware of it. And so therefore you feel the emotions. But like you just said, they don't really stop there. It's very interesting being in a show. And obviously a lot of people listening to this will know what I'm talking about. But if you've never been in a show, maybe this will enlighten you to like the performers in your life. Mm-hmm. When you are part of a cast, it's and a show, it's all encompassing. So yes, you're there a lot, but even when you're not, you are sleeping to support your role. You are eating to support your role. You are rearranging your schedule to support your role. You are thinking about your lines. You are singing your songs in the car. You are doing your dances in between work and taking kids to school. And then it ends and it ends.
It ends. It's abrupt.
It's abrupt.
And you've seen these people regularly for not just the month of the show runs, but for the 6 weeks prior. You're together almost every day, rehearsing for hours, and then it's done.
And it's not gradual. It's just over.
And if it's a good cast, it's sad. I haven't been part of a bad cast, so I don't know.
I don't think I have.
I know.
Honestly.
I don't know.
I recall.
I could assume if you don't have good vibes, you'll be glad a show's over sometimes.
Sure.
I haven't had that experience in recent years, so I can't speak to that. I'm always very sad, and I'm kind of like lecherous when not lecherous. Like I just like cling to people. So once you're in my life, you're probably going to stay there. So it's not like I will never see people again, because I like intentionally will see you and talk to you. But anyway,
it was that makeup is never the same. You know, I say that to my kids a lot too. I'm like, when they get sad when shows they're in are ending or something, it's like, you will probably perform, especially in their circles, right? Because they're young still and they're here.
Yeah.
You'll probably perform with these people again, most of these people, but it will never be exactly the same as this. It won't be the same show. It won't be the same people. It won't be the same dynamics.
Right.
Which kind of to your point, if you're in a situation that you aren't enjoying, maybe is okay. But in our case, and definitely with this show, it is sad. And to your point for it lingering, I think it is sort of as the days go by, you do still feel it. Because that's the day you aren't going to rehearsal.
Right.
Or that's the day you were going to, you always see that person and check in with them. So maybe you're going to text them instead, but like you kind of notice, you really start to notice when it's not there, all the little things that have built up over that time that are gone. And that's what makes it special. Like you said, like the moment in time and like the being able to do both, to savor it in the moment, but also be like, this is going to be hard later.
Yeah. Yeah. And part of the reason live theater is so fun is because you're creating art for the moment. And once it's done, it's done. Like, it's not like when you're making a painting or a song, it can keep on. Like, live theater's done. Like, you put it out there for the audience that's in the seats for those 2 hours, and then it's gone with the wind. And every performance is different. Yes. Because shit happens and lines are dropped. I swear to God, our last show, this was so funny. I did not flub any lines the whole show until our closing show. I have the most basic ass lines in the very beginning. Yeah. And I say, we have to leave right now, boys. I'm not kidding. Do you want to miss it? Okay. I said that 100 times. We get to the closing show and I said, we have to leave right now, boys. Okay? I swear, I don't know what happened. Those are nonsense words. I like in my brain, I went, huh. Like, I've sang wrong notes plenty of times, but like,
that's so funny.
That
and then it just keeps rolling.
And I was like,
everyone's like, well, we know what she's supposed to say, so we're just going to
keep going. The funny thing is, like, Troy was in the audience. My husband was in the audience. I texted him at intermission. I was like, did you hear that? He's like, I don't know what you're talking about. He's the best person to watch theater because he doesn't pick up all the little mistakes like fellow performers do. Like when they're like, I saw you missed your mark there. Like, you know what I mean?
I'd be like, your arm was going the wrong way.
Yeah, I saw you slip down the stair. Like, he does not pick up any of it. It's lovely. It's so wonderful. But anyway, so something that I was so excited about. Okay, I was also shocked. We can tell this story really quickly, and Katie knows because Katie's my friend, but she's also my voice teacher, and Cooper's.
Yes.
So she helped us get ready for these auditions as she was preparing her own damn self, and I wrote on my audition form. I wasn't specifically auditioning for a lead role because I am not a traditional lead role vocalist. Okay. And I'm not trying to throw shade to myself, everyone. I'm an alto too on a good day. And I don't have a belty voice anymore. I don't have, all those check marks.
Yeah.
So that's just never in the past year and a half been in my line of sight. It's just not. So on my paper, on our audition paper where it says like roles auditioning for, I always put any because I'll wherever you want to put, but I just assume like that's ensemble or like whatever.
Yeah.
I put any/elf.
Any/elf.
I just wanted to wear that elf costume.
I'd really like to be an elf, which the elf costume, just to quickly interject,
so good.
So it was one of those where it's like, it's a great costume. I don't mean the costume is bad, but it's like bad because it's baggy and it's
it's great.
It's ugly on purpose.
Oh yeah. Tacky.
So
tacky.
Of course, like, especially as women, we get it. We're like, oh wow.
Oh, they were amazing.
And I'll tell you what, like, after you put that thing on 2 or 3 times, my friend Jen St. Marie and I, we'd be going down the stairs in, what were we, I'm trying to think what we were wearing right before it. Oh, we're wearing our flapper dresses and our heels. And we'd be going down the stairs to change and we'd be like, oh my God, it's time for the elf costume. Because it was like putting yourself in like a big Snuggie.
Oh, it was great.
And we had decided to wear jazz shoes, like flats for that scene. It was the only scene. So we'd be like, all of us would be like, it's time for our favorite costume.
It was amazing. Yeah. But anyway, that funny story aside, casting sometimes has nothing to do with what you think it does. Yep. And I was very grateful and shocked. I feel like, I think I was shocked for like weeks. I think
you were.
I don't think it set in.
You were panicked too.
Literally panicked. And we can talk about this later. And I don't want to make this all about myself, but I am very proud of myself. Like, yes. I think that's another reason why the emotions came in. I'm going to cry now.
You know what? Why not? Just get it out of the way.
Because I finally figured out how to get out of my own way, which was my biggest hurdle. And Katie knows this, not just as a friend, but as my voice teacher. She would have to tell me like, okay, you have to just don't think about it. Like, just go, which sounds so simple, but it's those simple things that are so hard.
Yeah.
They're so hard. And there was notes that I just could not sing. And Katie was like, we're just going to change them.
I was like, well, give me a pencil.
And she did. And honestly, that was the part of the song I felt the best about. Was the one, because I knew, okay, I can do these. I can do this. I can do this. And this is where I should be with this. And it was. And our vocal director is also our friend Gina. And I recorded myself singing it. And she's like, yeah, do that.
Yeah. She was on board. Well, I think that's interesting because what you said is, at least traditionally in this phase of life, you as a performer, you are typically like either acting, no musical, or you're in the ensemble.
Yeah.
And so, which is great. Like you love doing those things.
I do.
It's perfect. But, even the changing the notes thing is not something you would do in the ensemble. So never. I had to talk you into.
I know. I was
to
panicked.
say to you, you are singing by yourself.
Yeah.
This is your solo. You can change a few notes if you want.
Yeah.
And you clear it with the vocal director and everyone's on board. Like, the audience will not know.
Right.
They are not holding sheet music in front of them. No, you're not messing anyone else up. And so I had to talk you into.
Yeah, you did.
You are a lead character here.
Right.
And this is what lead characters do.
I know. It's like I couldn't. It took me so long I had the worst imposter syndrome. The worst. And even at Invited Dress, when usually that's so fun.
Yeah.
And you finally have it on, I felt like shit after. Like, everybody was like on a high because we had an audience. And I was like, this sucked. I hated that. That was so bad. I can't believe people just watched me do this. I left and like friends were talking to it. And I was like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
I finally got past it. I don't remember when it was, but sometime.
Yeah.
After it just happened. But anyway.
Yeah, we'll talk more about it.
So my favorite thing though, when I got my script and I started going through my lines, I was taking pictures of the pages of all the iconic lines and moments that I knew I got to do as Mother. And I was sending them to my sister. And I was like, oh my God. And plus, all the iconic lines and moments from the movie are in the musical.
Yes.
You'll shoot your out. I got to be the first person to say it because the mom is the first person to say it in the movie. Cooper got to wear the bunny outfit. You know, what else is in there? Like the tongue on the thing.
The tongue on the pole. And Cooper got to wear the cowboy outfit.
Yes. And like the whole lamp scene. Oh my God, that was so much fun. Like the lamp scene, the leg lamp scene with Chris, who played the old man. It was so fun. Our two favorite scenes was that and Christmas morning.
Yeah.
A lot of the lines were the same.
Exactly the same.
And also when I got to put the soap in Ralphie's mouth.
So good.
And then the phone call, exactly the same.
The phone call explained to...
Calling Mrs. Schwartz because, you know, Ralphie says that he heard the word from his friend. It was great. And the Chinese restaurant scene is in the script, everyone. But they had options if you decide not to be racist.
It's like, if you would like to be racist, here's your path.
Like, but also
if you
just
would
take
like
it
to
out.
Not be like, here's your path. So, like, maybe go with Plan B.
Why they left that scene in the book? I mean, not in the book. In the musical is beyond me.
Yeah, you don't have to.
Correct.
Change
because we did change it and it was still hilarious. Now
it was great.
We just had we did not do the Chinese waiters singing. Okay, I'm not gonna do it, guys.
Don't worry.
You know what I'm talking about. We just had actors being just waiters, just like regular waiters in a Chinese restaurant.
Correct.
Okay, they were not playing Chinese actors. And we still had like the whole duck head cut off scene. It was just glorious. And I think that's what made it so fun. And of course, playing a mom to my real kid on stage was so much fun. And I don't know if we'll get to do that again.
I feel like you will.
I feel like
maybe not. I mean, you don't know because you don't know what the future holds for either of you. You don't know what theaters are going to be doing what.
Yes.
But like, I feel like the level of iconicness as well as closeness and number of sheer scenes that you're in together will be hard to match. Even if like you did Christmas Carol together last year.
We were never on stage together, hardly.
Right. So like you experienced that together.
Right.
As did I with my kids. Right. But like you weren't like on the same just from a time perspective, sharing the stage as much and the pictures that you all got, the professional pictures. I agree. So you hope that it comes along again, and it could, but
the possibility is high that it's not. And I mean, I got to sing him a song, and it was a mess on our closing show. I knew, and I mean, it was fine if I cried during that song because it fit. Yeah. For those of y'all who have not seen the musical, there's a song after Ralphie fights with the bully, and the mom brings him home, and she's comforting him, and it's all about. It's just a moment in time, and a moment comes, a moment gone, a moment goes, and just like that, the moment's gone. But then, she sings to Ralphie. Then Randy has his little "Dad's gonna kill Ralphie" part.
I love that part.
And then the mom kind of reflects on kind of motherhood as a whole. And it's that part of the song killed me.
Well, and you should let listeners know your other son literally became an adult.
Oh,
he turned 18
God help me. I know.
During the run of this show.
Yeah.
His birthday was
the day before opening night.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you're sitting here singing how quickly it goes.
I know.
And your now adult son, recently now adult, that very day is sitting there watching. And you're singing to your other son like, I wouldn't be able to keep it together.
Yeah, it was hard. But, anyways, I was going somewhere with that.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
No,
I had to point out
my brain. I don't know what it was. It'll come to me. But anyway, so we're talking about comparing the musical and the movie, which for somebody who knows the movie so well, like me, was really fun. One of the big differences in the musical and the movie is that you see the narrator the whole time on the stage in the stage version. Now in the movie you just hear the voice, which by the way, I don't think you said Gene Shepherd was the narrator of the movie.
Oh, I didn't say.
Yeah. So
yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Which makes sense because he's a radio guy.
Yeah, Gene Shepherd, who wrote the book that A Christmas Story, the movie, is based on, he actually narrated the movie.
Okay.
So the narrator in the stage version, in the musical, you see throughout. Now, how they stage that is different. But I loved how our director had him on stage the entire time.
Mm-hmm.
He was never once did he deliver lines off stage. He was on stage, which I really liked because if y'all listened to our Halloween episodes, you heard Ben, who was the Tales from the Crypt super fan. He played our narrator, and this was a very emotional role for him as well because he had a connection with Gene Shepherd because his dad gave him his books when he was a kid, and his dad passed away about 10 years ago, and his dad's the anniversary of his dad's death happened during our run of the show. And so we all knew this as castmates, and we were very aware. But I think when a role you hold a role so close to your heart emotionally, it just hits different in the audience. You just know, like, whether or not they think you're just an amazing actor because you're getting so touched is maybe that's all they take away from it. But I feel like when you can pour your own self into the role like he did, and I mean, even like I did and Cooper did, I think it just hits different.
Yeah, totally.
And I'm like, I just couldn't picture anybody else in that role besides Ben.
Yeah.
Like, I just couldn't.
As I said on the episode before, we were talking about the movie.
Yeah.
Every time I'm like picturing Gene Shepherd, like in real life, when I was talking about how he was on the radio and how he like did all these different things and wrote a book, I was picturing Ben, even though I was looking at literal pictures of Gene Shepherd.
I know.
I was like, every time I thought of Gene Shepherd, I thought of him, and like they're interchangeable for me.
And it's so crazy because, like, the narrator is narrating the story, but he's on stage maneuvering through all of us the whole time. So there were so many scenes, pretty much every scene I'm in, he's there in a chair and I have to not acknowledge him.
Right.
That's so hard.
It's like he's a ghost.
Or he's handing me stuff, or he's handing Chris stuff. And like, we just, it was just crazy, but he did such a great job. And even his voice, he said he tried to emulate Gene Shepherd, but not imitate him. Right. So like have his essence. Yeah. And I even tried to do that a little bit with the mom, because here's the thing. You walk into a stage version of a movie that is iconic. Okay. It is pop culture icon. People are like, Cooper looks like Ralphie.
He does.
I mean, like, look at this shirt. I'm wearing it right now.
I know. He looks so
Cooper's
much like
hair
him.
is not as blonde because he's strawberry blonde, but I mean, the kid looks like Ralphie, which I honestly helped him get cast, because you can't go see A Christmas Story and not think of Ralphie.
Right.
And if you have like another kid who looks totally different, not that they can't do it, but like it helps. It's important.
It's like a piece that the audience doesn't have to warm up to.
Right.
Which gets you really far.
Correct.
Like as soon as he shows up, they're on board with you.
Oh yeah. And we'll have pictures on our socials. I'll put some pictures from the musical so y'all can see what I'm talking about. Like, he looks just like him. And I look nothing like the mom. Chris looks nothing like the dad, because he's like 30 something years younger than the dad.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's that.
But we both wanted to still have, like, I can't think of the right word. I guess the essence of their OG characters from the movie. And it was easy for me because I've seen the movie so many times. Like, I knew how she spoke. I knew how she said things. Like, it wasn't that I didn't want to copy her.
Yeah.
Because that's not this anyway.
Well, yeah, you're not just, like you said, you're not trying to imitate.
Right.
Or mimic.
But you do have to have some of the same for some, anyway. So it was a lot of fun, but I don't know. So what are some, one thing I wanted to say that is not in the musical that is an iconic part of the movie is the whole Little Orphan Annie decoder ring.
Yeah.
It's not in the musical. I don't know why they left it out. Probably a time thing.
It also could be a licensing thing.
Oh, maybe because it says drink your Ovaltine.
It could be something like that.
But also, I mean, it matters nothing to the story.
It doesn't. It doesn't. I didn't even notice it was gone until like just now when you pointed that out.
That is one scene that was not in it, but like the fight's in it, and basically the musical to me is just the movie with songs.
Yeah.
And a few things left out. Also, the timeline's a little different. Like when they meet Santa in the movie is different than when they meet him. Then they go to Santa in the musical. Like things are a little. Excuse me. When he says "Oh fudge," that's at a different time than. Goodness gracious!
Around a little,
the timeline is a little different, but I think it works.
It does. Yeah.
It works,
totally
and all the big moments are still there. But anyway, so what I've been talking a whole lot. So why don't you pop in and tell us anything?
Oh,
anything.
Say
something, because I keep just rambling.
No, I'm appreciating like what you're processing through, and I'm adding in my thoughts. But yeah, I'm not as huge a fan of the movie. Like I couldn't like off the top of my head tell you what was in one or the other. Like I didn't even notice the Dakota Ring wasn't even in the musical till right now.
Well, there you go.
But I really enjoyed the musical, and I think, like I said, we had people who really, really liked the movie who then came on stage and said they really liked the musical. We had a lot of people who said they'd never seen it.
Yeah.
Loved it. Maybe they even went home and watched it. Who knows? But I mean, I like the musical more than the movie.
Okay.
Like, I would go see the musical. Like if another theater does it next year, I will definitely go get my tickets, but I might not watch A Christmas Story like next Christmas season.
What?
I know, because for one thing, and I love it when this happens, I say this a lot about the musical Shrek. If you know me, you've heard me say this.
Yes.
When you take something iconic,
yeah,
like A Christmas Story or Shrek, and you decide to make a musical, you could just slap that on there and people would come.
Yeah.
So I really appreciate when the music's actually good.
Yeah.
And the book is good.
Good. Right.
Like, it's like a pleasant surprise.
Yeah.
It's like, I would have liked it either way.
Yeah.
But this music's great, you know, and that's how I felt with the music in this show. I felt like they did a really good job having fun music that made sense for the musical, but also I think of like the finale song or It All Comes Down to Christmas, which is like basically the opening number.
Yeah.
And how sort of traditionally Christmassy those are.
Yeah.
And then you've got all this other like fun music sandwiched in between that. And I just think that as a performer, it was really fun to participate in all of that. And so I was in the ensemble, which we lovingly have been calling the Mom Ensemble, because a lot of us were moms.
Whose husband came up with that word?
Troy. Yeah, it was Troy.
Yeah.
That's right. Danny's husband came up with that word.
I love it.
And then Hunt, our stage manager, our assistant stage manager friend, made us little buttons and stuff. So our ensemble was moms. Made up of mostly moms.
Yeah,
I think we had one that wasn't. A lot of women in our 40s, women in our 30s, and younger than that too. So we were, we were townspeople. We were
flappers.
Women. We were
lamps.
Flappers. We were. Some of us were lamps. Some of us were confetti cannon,
gold gown wearers.
Gowns. Oh my God. I wish I had a picture with that confetti cannon.
I can't believe you didn't get one. Lame.
I should have had my husband just like take one just for me.
I know.
Like I know we can't like post it or whatever, but I never did. But that's okay. Like we said, live theater. It lives
forever in your memory.
And then I was the elf, which I mentioned.
Let's give a shout out to the costumer, because he tried to copy the movie costumes as good as he could, and he did.
He did.
James, you're a rock star.
You're amazing. And everyone looked great. Like, again, the elf costumes were what they were, but, like, we loved them.
But that's what they look like in the movie with the head thing.
Yes,
Y'all know what I'm talking about if you know the movie, the little head.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I felt like, especially since some of the women were, not teenagers or in their 20s, he gave us cinched waists.
Yes, he did.
He, was like, I really want you to look great. I loved the first dress they gave me as a townsperson. It was, like, very, like, form-fitting, and it just looked really nice on me. And then he replaced it with a different dress.
I loved it.
But I ended up loving it even more.
Oh my gosh, it's so good.
You'll have to look on our socials. We'll get a picture of the dress that was replaced with. And it was because of color.
Yeah.
When everybody was together, it was like, we need a little more splash of color. So then I got this dress with like all these colors to kind of like make up for it. But when I would go out into the audience to sell 50/50 tickets, I would get stopped. Oh my God, I love your dress. Yeah. I love that dress. And I'm like, it's, I mean, I didn't say this, but in my head, I'm like, well, it's my costume, but like,
it's not mine.
Thank you. Or maybe they'll let me keep it. I don't wow.
It was
like,
really cute.
Your dress is amazing. And so
that was one of the ones that was actually a vintage dress, right?
Yeah.
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 Y'all, I had a vintage Christian Dior robe.
Oh my God, that robe. I loved that robe.
Do you know Amanda wore that in Diana?
Oh, you know what? Yeah. I know the scene you're talking about.
It was right before the fuckity dress.
Yes.
So I sent her a picture of me in that robe. I was like, look what I get to wear. It was so fun. But yeah, he did. He had some good vintage. And yes, all my costumes had a cinched waist, which I appreciated.
Yes.
Even when I was singing with a meatloaf, it's still...
You still want to be a little bit sexy.
I still hate that song.
The Meatloaf song?
Yeah.
Wait, what's the Meatloaf song? Does it down?
What a Mother Does.
Up?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I get the message. Like, the whole song is about, like, a mom does all these things, like, you know, but it's because that's what a mother does. But it's so, like...
It's kind of anti how you feel in real life.
Yeah.
But that's why you're playing the character.
I know. And I did my Donna Reed.
You did. And we talked about this in the regular episode that...
I did.
It is a period piece.
Correct. I had to separate.
And so Dani back then may have felt like that.
No, I would have been burned at the stake or lobotomized or
probably.
I mean,
but Dani the actor can transport to that place. And I was saying this. I guess I should say this to you because I said it to my entire dressing room, but not you.
Oh, I love that.
So it just occurred to me. I was saying, because we were kind of talking about what you were just saying, how we're like, oh man, like we're so glad, like that's not what like family life looks like today. If you don't want it to,
right? That whole trad wife thing is like a big trend now.
Oh yeah, and so for some people,
and that's your choice, you do it
totally fine. But we in our particular dressing room, we were like, well, that's not how our households run, and we're glad. But I was saying one thing I really like about the mother's character, particularly in the musical. And this isn't a mean thing, but like everything she does is kind of to the benefit of her life. Yeah. So like she is sort of like manipulating. And again, I don't mean that in a bad way, but she's like making sure the things are flowing because it makes her life better. Easier. Yeah. And so like you see that she's smart. Mm-hmm. You see that she's caring, but that she's like her own person. Mm-hmm. You do see that. And I know a lot of that was like your acting choices for sure. That like you never once feel like, oh, you know, like you feel like she's kind of fiery. She's kind of whatever. Like even as you're watching her with the meatloaf, you're like, oh yeah, she's got a whole brain, you know? And I know a lot of that was your acting choices, but we were just saying that too. We were like, yeah, you know, like the way Dani's playing it and the way it's written, at least in the musical, it's not as bad, you know?
Well, and I think too, like when we first started, you know, it takes you a while, as you know, as an actor to like develop your character, right? Mm-hmm. And I think sometimes it's harder when you have a character that's already established, like iconic that everybody knows.
I would think so. Yeah.
And, you know, I think Chris probably went through that too, because they expect the old man to, you know, and Chris made it his own, and it was hilarious. He was so good. And I will say the dad's a little more endearing in the musical than he is in the movie, because he has two crazy out there songs. And then you actually hear him apologize to the mom for being an asshole. Well, he didn't say I'm sorry for being an asshole, but
he says I'm sorry.
He says I'm sorry, you know, and,
so they fixed a few things there.
I mean, he's still, like, there was one night we went on and the audience for a while, until we got to hit Chris's second song in Act 1, they were not feeling him. And I don't know if he picked up on it, but like, you know, lines like where he's like, shut up, blah, blah, no laughs.
Everyone's like, ooh.
And I was like, oh, damn, like this is going to be a rough show but then, of course, after Major Award, they love him. And it was great. And you know,
how can you not?
How can you not? Which is funny because he's the nicest person in real life. Like, it's super nice.
So funny. Yeah, to see him like yelling and
screaming.
He's so great as a person. And then additionally, he works with young people. He's a teacher for his day job and a youth theater director in the evenings and weekends. So it's like, it is so funny. But I mean, that's what good acting can transport you.
And I was going somewhere with that, but I don't know where I was going. But, you know, speaking of like our cast mates, I will say that this was such a good experience. Mm-hmm. And I will admit, I had a little bit of FOMO of missing out on all the amazing dancing the ensemble did, because I danced nary nothing in this show.
You danced a little.
I did 2 3-point turns. That's it. And
those are the two I was just thinking of,
that's actually. And I did have some FOMO because like you do ensemble bonding, right? When you're like struggling with choreo and struggling with the harmonies, and like I didn't really have that. And I had a little bit of FOMO, but I will say I didn't feel like there was like separation. Like I felt like that it was such a cohesive like cast. I felt everybody was like really there for each other. And even the kids, I would come off stage, and Braden, who played Schwartz, he would always be right there before we'd go on after my sad song. I had 2 solos. One I called a Meatloaf song, and one was a sad song.
Right, so keep up, listeners. Keep up. This is the sad song, not the Meatloaf song.
After my sad song, he would always come up to me and look me in the face and say, "That was amazing."
God
right? So I felt
him.
like that our cast was very good at encouraging each other. Not that there wasn't stress and stuff happening, and like that's theater. But I felt like like when Ashley got hurt, we had a castmate that got hurt during a show, her ankle, and like she could not go on the rest of the show. So they had to like make last minute adjustments, and everybody was just so, and when I say cast, I also mean crew.
Right.
As well.
The whole team.
And so I just felt like that's also another reason why it's so hard to say like when you're done. So our set is being used again sort of for the spectacular they have going on, and our cast was invited to go watch their cast invited dress. And so it was so weird. Cooper and I were sitting there, and Here Comes Our House, and it was like, it made me teary, and I'm like, they're in our house. Like, it was so sad. And I messaged Chris after, because I didn't get to talk to him much during the show. And I was like, okay, it was really weird for Cooper and I to see our house from the audience. I said, was it weird for you? And he's like, oh my God, yeah, it was. He's like, I got teary, and I don't do that. And then like the little boy playing Randy is in the spectacular. And I said, I wonder if it was weird for Donovan to be in the house with other people.
With his family.
It was just so crazy. Oh, and that was another scene. I'm so glad, the snowsuit scene.
Oh my God, so good.
That was so fun getting to do that scene. It was so fun.
And the little boy who played Randy, like this young man has never worn a snowsuit before.
Never. He's a surfer kid from Florida.
The surfer hair, the nice tan. Like,
yes,
he's not been in this. And now I could be wrong. Maybe they went on a trip or something. But snowsuits are not something the norm for him, and he just owned it. Like, we would laugh, Gina and I, because we'd be backstage. One of the scenes where he comes off and he would go by us to go into his dressing room and be like, swish, 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 swish. And we would just kind of giggle every time, because he's just like walking with purpose, and it's like making all this noise. It was so sweet.
Oh my gosh. It was, I don't know. I am so grateful for this show, and it was very stressful for me, and there was a lot I went through, and I know that you went through some stuff too, and but I feel like we really put on a good show.
We really did. And that's kind of to loop what you were saying. Ensemble specifically is what you were talking about, like getting the harmonies, getting the choreo, getting the whatever, that when you're in a show that really challenges you. So like in my case, there was a lot of dancing that really challenged me this time. The singing is not so challenging. Right. Of course, you have to learn your music. And sometimes walking and costume stuff will overwhelm me a little bit at first, depending how much I have. And then once I do it a few times, I'm good to go. But I think when you have something really challenging like that, and everyone feels challenged in a different way, like your challenges were different than mine. 100%. And we always assume like the lead person or Ben, who's the narrator, whoever, like doesn't have challenges, but they do.
Right.
So when you're all doing that together, and then when you can step back and go, it's good that we were all really challenged, because we really rose above what we would have done if we weren't.
Yeah.
And I always say, like, that's why at this particular theater at the Henninger, I always love doing shows there, because I'm so proud for people to come see it.
Oh yeah.
And I know as performers, sometimes that's not the case. Sometimes you're like, you know what, you can maybe skip this one. Not so much now, like in this phase of performing for me, but like as a younger person, or I've done some fringe stuff that I was like, you know what, you can sit this one out. Like, it's cool. Don't worry about it. But like, I want people to come, and I want to see them after. And because it's maybe a little narcissistic, because you're like, oh, I'm really good, or my friends are really good, come see it. But also, it's like, you're giving them something that they're getting their money's worth, they're getting their time's worth, they are going to enjoy, and like giving that to someone, as you mentioned, a once in a lifetime thing. They can come see it tomorrow and it's a different show. Is such a gift.
It is.
To give people.
Oh yeah.
You know, and then the flip side of that is what the audience gives you.
Oh, for
which
real.
That is totally like selfish to soak that up, but I don't care. Like like the energy you get from them, the applause, the cheers, the laughs. You can see people smiling or crying or whatever, and you're like, wow, that's because of what we're all doing up here.
What we're creating.
Yeah, what we're creating.
My favorite is when a joke lands and everybody's cracking up.
I love
whether
that.
It's my joke or somebody else. Like
totally.
People. Okay, so Chris, the guy playing the old man, had this meltdown moment at the end after the Bumpus Hounds get the turkey right, and he just decided, like midway through the show, he was just going to elevate this shit to next level. It was hysterical. It was such the best choice ever, and it was hysterical. And the audience not only cackled, they would clap and hoot and holler. And it was amazing. And I'm frozen. Like my whole thing is like frozen in shock. And I'm on the inside laughing so hard. And it's just, when a joke lands, it's even more, I love hearing people laugh. It's the best thing. And I could hear people sniffle during when I would have Cooper's moment. I could hear people sniffle at the end. And that, and along those lines, Patrick sent me the sweetest message I shared with you after him and his wife Dina came with our friends OP and Margaret to see the show. He messaged me to say thank you to all of us for the show. And he's like, I just loved it so much. This is probably one of my favorite Christmas memories this year, was coming to see the show.
Right. I think he even said, because it was still a while before Christmas, he's like, there's still a lot of the holiday season left, and I already know this is going to be toward the top of all the things that happened to me this holiday season.
And you know that he felt like if an audience member leaves feeling like, oh my God, like your heart's full, like you just, that's what you want as a performer.
Absolutely.
And I think I had this young girl come up to me after one of the shows and wait to talk to me, and that, to me, I think is what got me past myself and saying, you don't have to be perfect. I don't have to sound like everybody else up here. I'm going to do what my voice can do. We all know everybody on stage is going to work as hard as they can.
Yeah.
But I think what matters is if your heart's in it. And if your heart's in it, the audience is going to feel it and they know it. And it'll come across, and it's fine. Now, I mean, if you're going to be an ass, let me tell you something though. If you're going to be an asshole in an audience and critique everything that people are doing on stage, just keep it to yourself.
Well, it's community theater.
It's community theater, guys.
We're not to say that because it's so good. It's like, it's amazing, better than community theater, but also it is like, people are volunteers.
Right. I mean, some people are professional performers in our shows.
Yeah, it does happen.
Some people are.
Yeah, sometimes.
Or they have been in the past, right?
Or they have been in the past. So, I mean, it is elevated above that. But the essence of it is just what it's called. It's theater for the community you live in.
Yeah.
It's not theater that's being nominated for Tony Awards.
We should be.
We should be. Just saying. It's not going on a national tour. It's for where you live.
Yeah.
Basically.
Right.
And sometimes people might come in from other places.
Oh, for sure.
Or regionally. But like, so just like be a community member and go enjoy that.
And I will say, like, you know, there's always something positive to say. We say that all the time on this show. Yeah. And even if a show's not perfect, who cares? Like, it doesn't have to be perfect. You can still have a good time and have a quality show. I mean, it's live theater. Nothing is ever perfect.
Ever.
Nothing ever is perfect. There's always something crazy happening.
Always.
You know, and so I don't know. I love that Dominic does this. That's our director. After shows close, you know, we strike, which means you put everything away from the set and disassemble things and costumes, and you basically pick apart your whole everything, which is also kind of gut wrenching when that happens.
It happens so fast too.
But he provides the opportunity for everybody in the cast and crew to talk with him after you're done. Mm-hmm. And as soon as my butt sat in that chair, I started crying. And I said to him, did I do okay? That's That's what I said. I said, meanwhile, the first thing I said to him after I got cast was, "Are you sure I can do this?" And so thinking of that, like I got through it and I got to it. And he said some things to me that I'm going to remember. Did I tell you this already?
I don't think you did.
Okay. Well, good. Then we can just share it now. He said something to me that I'm going to carry. And I really appreciate it because I haven't really got to have like big, like sit downs with him for past shows, just because I usually wait because I'm very slow, everybody, and getting my shit out of there. And it's usually towards the end. And so like, you know, and I just don't have much to like ask or whatever. I'm just like, thank you for the opportunity. I appreciate it. Bye. So this time I knew I like had a lot to say. And, but he said to me, I said, "Did I do okay?" And he's like, you know, he's a performer as well. And he didn't perform in a while, but he was Lumiere recently in Beauty and the Beast when they did it. And he was fabulous. He was great. And he's like, you know, it's interesting because as performers, we're our own worst critics. We all know this. We've said that on here. And he's like, and it doesn't matter how many times people tell you that you're doing great. And he said, people would say things to me after every show and I'd go home and beat myself up for the note I missed or the thing I missed and think that what am I doing and blah, blah, blah. And he's like, but you know, he said, when I cast, now I'm going to cry.
Maybe you should have told me before. So
I know you were going to cry too. He said, when I cast you, it was because of a few things. And he said, you carry this light with you on stage. And I'm not saying this to brag, guys, but it just really like sat with me because I still don't really believe this about myself. But he said, you carry this light with you on stage. And I knew that you would deliver acting wise. And he said, I knew you would work as hard. This I appreciate. He said, I knew you would work as hard as you could on your vocals. And he said, I knew that, you know, obviously you and Cooper already have that connection. But he said, because of things that you shared with me in the past about your family. And he was like, I hope I'm not upsetting you even more because I'm already crying, right? And he was like, I wanted to give you the chance to have these moments with your son that you may not have gotten. And so then the floodgates were like totally going. But, and he's like, and he said, that's why I wanted you in this role.
Yeah.
And I think to hear that was such like a full circle moment for me to know that I did do all those things. Like I didn't sit there and I think, oh my God, he expected all this stuff from me and I didn't do it.
Right.
But to hear him say, I expected this and I knew in my brain, I did work as hard as I could vocally. Yeah. I feel like I did deliver acting wise. And I did appreciate the moments that I had with my kiddo. And I won't ever forget that because that meant a lot because this was such an emotional show for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was
awesome.
It was one of those that I appreciate so much.
And I think it's easy for a director or whoever, especially if they're tired too, or they've got all these people to talk to. I think it's easy to just kind of gloss over it and be like, you did great.
Right. Move on.
That's my note. You did great.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
And that's fine.
And maybe you did do great.
Right.
But like to kind of give specifics when they exist. I don't think any director, Dominic or otherwise, has to come up with something for everyone. Like that's not their responsibility necessarily. But like if there are specifics that maybe you don't know, to be able to share that in that moment is really great, I think, and really powerful. Like you said, that'll stay with you.
It will.
You could have just been like, your singing was great. But he was like, no, I knew you had to work on it, and you did. And you're like, yeah, that checks.
And I mean, I appreciated that because I didn't feel like he was blowing smoke at my ass either.
Exactly.
Like, because, like I said, I'm not trying to fool anyone. Like, I can't do the things Devin, who played Miss Shields, can do. I can't do that. I can't do what Chris can do, right? And but to hear that I wasn't expected to do that.
Right.
And that meant a lot. And so, and also, like, too, our cast was so great. Chris is now, like, I consider him a friend. Like, he's almost like a brother, even though he played my husband. But, like, you know what I'm saying?
Right. No, I do.
Like, we got along very well. And he told me, he was like, besides my wife, because his wife is also an amazing performer, by the way. Oh, my God. They're both so good. I can't wait to see what their kid does.
Oh, my gosh. I know.
Come on. He's like, besides my wife, you've been my favorite co-star.
Aww.
And that meant so much to me because I feel like, you know, and so many people said to me, like, the family dynamic was so good. Like, the four of you, I really forgot that y'all weren't a family.
Right.
And even though Cooper and I really are a family.
I mean, 50% of you is a family. So,
but like, us together as a unit
right,
was believable. And I think the way that happens is you have to get along in real life.
Yeah.
To make it believable. Even if you're a fucking great actor, if you hate your co-star, you're not going to be able to have the same message.
No, you can overcome it to an extent. But
you can, but
it's so much better if you don't have to spend the energy on that.
Oh yeah,
like,
wearing
like,
oh God, they're such a diva, or like they're so rude.
Like, I hate being on stage with this person.
Right, they're such a stage hog, and they're like skipping over my lines, or
I
just
can't wait till I'm not.
With
this person. You know, you hear about that a lot with like TV shows.
You
and
do
stuff. Like if people, and then if you go back and watch the seasons where supposedly that kind of stuff was happening,
you can see it.
Yeah,
but also too, like not just like. Everybody in the cast was just so great. Everybody, I just felt like...
I totally agree.
Yeah, I just felt like everybody was great and loving and caring and made sure everybody felt okay and felt safe. And, I mean, anyway, that's in the cast, crew, team, everybody. I'm like sweating all of a sudden.
Are you?
It's probably this giant Santa hat.
I was going to say, I feel okay. So it must be your giant t-shirt. Yeah, it must be the giant Santa hat.
And I'm emotional.
Yeah.
But anyway, I think that brings us to the end, kind of. We mostly just processed.
We just processed live, everyone. And if you're on YouTube, you can
see me cry.
You can see her cry. You can see us process like live and on air. But yeah, I'm glad that we delved into this and gave people insight into the musical. If you haven't seen it, or if you have seen it, just like know a little more. And then, like our personal connections to it and processing like what you've processed through. And you mentioned like things I processed through, which were not necessarily related to my performance in the show, just life, things happening that coincided with like what the timing of what I was doing here, and to kind of come out on the other side and be like, okay,
we did it.
Yeah, we did it like the show, but also I did
it yourself.
I did the processing of the thing that I needed to do. So it's kind of great.
It's good. So everybody who's listening that was part of the show, we love you. And we thank you. And we're so grateful we got to do it with you. And I think too, like everybody who is a fangirl of the movie that came to see the musical loved it.
Yep.
And I think I wrote this down because I think the bottom line, why so many people like the movie and so many people just like this story in general, or maybe they read the book, you know, like Ben did, is that it's funny, but it also feels very real. And it's also heartwarming. It's all these things at once.
Yeah.
And I think that is what makes a story so good.
I agree.
Relatable, yet also hilarious, and also makes you cry.
And then, like, when the worst things happen, like, it still ends up okay.
Right.
You know, granted, the worst things in this were mild compared to some worst case scenarios in general. But, like, just that sort of, like you said, that heartwarming feel around it.
All there. So, anyways, thanks, guys, for listening. Yeah. We talked about Christmas Story for a really long time today.
We did.
So,
you might not be listening to it all at once. So that's fine too. Or maybe you are.
Maybe you are and you love us that much. But anyway, as we go, happy holidays to all you. Hope you do not get a pink bunny suit for your holiday unless you want one.
And send us a picture.
Oh, we'd love that. All right.
We would love it.
Happy holidays, everyone. We love you.
Happy holidays. See you in 2025, everybody.
Bye. Bye. And I said that on the mic.
You did. Good. I might just leave that in.
Literally sweating.